The NBA playoffs. Let's go through the first round. Let's look at the matchups. Let's make some picks. Let's see how many I get right, how many I get wrong. And let's see how many that Michael Bolton nails.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and do you know who Mike Wazowski is? I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. So we are here ready for the first round of the NBA playoffs to start. I'm doing my first round series preview here. I'm giving some picks. I would in the past go through and try and pick all the way through. I'm not going to do that here. I'll probably just do like a little segments and shows for each series once we know what happens in round 2, 3, and 4. I'm also recording this a little bit early because, like I said in the NBA Fantasy Award show, which has dropped already today, I'm heading out overseas tomorrow for a couple of days for a wedding. So I can't wait until we know how the play-in all settles before I can tell you those matchups. But we're getting close to it. I'm also recording this at halftime during the Bulls and Heat game. Bulls and Hawks game, not Heat. Bulls and Hawks game. It's halftime at the moment as I am starting to record this. Just so you get a picture of where we're at and what we're doing here. What we are doing is just looking at the matchups right across the NBA, what we need to look at, and how we're going to pick them. I do want to hear your thoughts, your series thoughts, who you think is going to win. You can drop those in the YouTube comments as well. You can tweet them at me if you want. But this is my predictions at this stage. Again, things can change with injuries and all that sort of stuff. But we're doing this. This is our official predictions. We'll start in the Western Conference because we know the majority of those matchups are settled. We'll start from the middle and go out. So we'll go 4-5, 3-6, 2-8, 2-7, 1-8. We'll go out that way. So the first series, we've got the Clippers and the Mavericks. Still, we don't really have super clear ideas about what the hell is happening to old mate Kawhi Leonard. Like, we don't really know how he's going to play. The Clippers are very coy, always, about Kawhi and about his injuries, and he hasn't played for weeks. It's weeks now, multiple weeks. And he's going to be questionable for this one, I'm guessing. All the other guys will be fine, but I just worry that he's not at full strength. The Mavericks are at full strength. I'm going to pick Dallas in 6. They've been the hottest team over the final 6 weeks of the year. Basically, you haven't lost. Luka and Kyrie are cooking. The chemistry's great. They've got the right players around them. If Kawhi was healthy, I think this would be a toss-up 7-game series. If Kawhi misses 2 games, I think Mavericks win it in 5. I think Kawhi will miss 1 maybe and be limited in some others, which pushes Dallas, I think, to be the favorite in this series. Even though they don't have home court, I think they can take home court back pretty easily. They just win the first game in LA and then we're done. And I think that they will win this Dallas in 6. The Kawhi injury, there are 2 major injuries, actually 3. Another one, I don't know about that other injury having any impact, but we'll talk about that later. That there are 2 real major injuries that are going to swing these series. Actually 3. Bloody hell. We had this situation where we talked about how great the player participation policy is and these guys not getting hurt. And look how it was not getting hurt, them not sitting and faking injuries for rests. And now, unfortunately, Kawhi's hurt. Giannis is hurt. Zion's hurt. Jim Butler's hurt. Ugh, not good, is it? Not a great way to start the playoffs. But anyway, Mavericks in 6. That is 4-2. If Kawhi was fully healthy, I would say Clippers in 7 because of home court, but he's not. So we're going to go with the Mavericks in 6 games. The second series, the 3v6. The Suns struggled all season. A lot of injuries. They had the hardest closing schedule of any team and one of the hardest closing schedules really we'd seen in a long time. And they cooked. They were 7-3 over their final 10 games. They're fully healthy at the moment, apart from Damian Lee, who hasn't played all season. That doesn't really matter. Beal knows his role. Booker's playing well. Durant, not quite full Kevin Durant, but there. Yusuf Nurkic's name kept coming up when I was looking at best defensive impact players yesterday in the award stuff, like defensive advanced metrics, EPMs and drips and Darkos and things like that. And reduction of percentage at the rim when guarding, all that sort of stuff. Nurkic just kept coming up, which I go, this is weird. Why does Nurkic keep appearing here? But he was. The team was rolling. Minnesota, one of the things that when the Rudy Gobert trade happened 2 years ago, my thing was, I think this might make them an excellent regular season team, and I worry a little bit about how that looks in the playoffs. I said, I think they could win 50 games and lose in the first round of the playoffs. That was 22-23. And of course, it was way worse than that. They were terrible. And then this season, they were excellent. They ended up in the 3. I'm a little worried about how they match up in the playoffs here. Towns coming back from the injury, assume he'll be basically close to 4 minutes. You're relying on Mike Conley. Jaden McDaniels as offensive disappearing act is there. Anthony Edwards, it does go under the radar. His efficiency's been pretty poor over the last, period of time. He hasn't been very good at all. He's been banged up. He refuses to sit games, even though it will be very clearly better for him and the team and their playoff success. But he's been banged up and banged up and banged up and banged up. Didn't even get him the 1 seed. And I do think Phoenix wins this. I've got Phoenix winning in 7. Now, when you get to a seventh game, a game 7, anything can go anyway, right? So this is not like to say that this is an easy win. I could very easily see Minnesota winning this. I have 2 bets actually holding at the moment for the Wolves to win the title and for the Thunder to win the title that I placed like the start of November. So I want them to win for that, for my wallet. But I do think that the Phoenix situation, I think Phoenix can handle them defensively. I think they've got enough things sort of rolling at the moment that they can get them here. And the Towns thing is a little weird. Not weird in terms of like how does it work. He's had massive struggles in the playoffs in the past, and now he's injured as well as he comes in or recovering from injury. It's an upset, obviously, but is it? Is it actually that much of an upset for Phoenix to be ahead of Minnesota, where in the preseason Phoenix was definitely more favored over Minnesota in terms of title odds, over/under season win totals, all of that stuff. So I'm taking Phoenix over Minnesota in 7 games. Today's episode is brought to you by... Why is it brought to you by that? That is not who it is brought to you by. It is actually... Actually, you know what? Screw it. We're doing that. It is brought to you by FanDuel. It is playoff time in the NBA and in the NHL. And baseball is in full swing. FanDuel is your place to bet on everything. On every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That is $150 in anything that happens with that bet. Win, lose, doesn't matter. You get your $150 in bonus bets back. You bet on everything. The big boy home runs. The big slap shots. The big slam dunkarooskies. It's all there, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Today's episode is also brought to you by Yahoo Finance. Yahoo, thank you for helping to support this show. And they are just like, we all want to have a level of financial security. You all want to be able to grow our portfolio to deal with costs of inflation and costs of living and all that sort of stuff. And if you've got the ability to do that to secure yourself with financial freedom, well, it's something we all strive to do. With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to news, to data, to tools that can help you in order to be able to reach that financial goal and get that financial freedom. Yahoo Finance for more than 25 years has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you are a seasoned investor or you're just looking for a bit of extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all of the tools and data that you need in one place. It is the #1 finance destination, giving you a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. So, for comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. That is the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Okay, so a couple of series done. The next one is the series we just found out about yesterday, and that is Denver and the Los Angeles Lakers, the 2v7. The Lakers struggled early in that game against the Pelicans. I did pick them to win that series. So far on my play-in picks, I am the ones that have gone through. I am 3 of 3, which is a good start there. And we'll see what happens in the other one. In this one, I just don't think the Lakers have got any chance against Denver, to be honest. They maybe, but LeBron wasn't looking great against the Pelicans. Davis definitely did not look at his best. And the Nuggets are just better. They're just better. Yes, they haven't been quite at their best down the stretch. Jamal Murray's been in and out with some injuries, but there's Gordon, there's Porter, there's Murray, there's KCP, there's Jokic, there's continuity, there's the best player in the world. There is, the bench not quite as good, but Christian Brown's been playing much better. Reggie Jackson's better than last season somehow. Peyton Watson is providing solid numbers. And I just don't, Rui Hachimura is not a Jokic stopper. Anthony Davis struggles mightily with Jokic. Everyone struggles mightily with Jokic. Aaron Gordon, unbelievably good defender. I was very close to going with a sweep here. Now, we know that the Nuggets swept the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals last season. Most of those games were sort of close. It was very easy for the Lakers to have gotten one of those. They didn't, but I think they get one here. I don't think it matters in the end, and I've got Denver winning this series in 5, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Now, we just don't know who's going to play the Thunder, because we've got one more play-in game to go. It's the Kings and the Pelicans in New Orleans. Now, when I gave my original play-in predictions, I said I think the Lakers beat the Pelicans, and I think the Kings beat the Warriors, and I think the Pelicans will smash the Kings. Unfortunately, I didn't know that Zion Williamson was going to strain his hamstring and be out for 2 weeks, which is exactly what has happened, unfortunately. So therefore, I don't think the Pelicans win. I'm not massive on the Kings. I just don't think the Pelicans win. Brandon Ingram is still not 100% right, but also Ingram's one of those interesting players, I think, that you watch him play and he'll score and look at the numbers and go, well, that's an all-star type thing, 25, 7 and 5, and he shot 40% on that's a great player, but he's one of those guys that always falls into that category where it hampers your team. And it's like he needs the ball in his hands, but if the ball is in his hands as the #1 guy, your team is going nowhere. And that's a little bit what I fear here, is that Ingram and Zion pairing I don't love. We also saw what a regression from CJ McCollum, who had been terrible and then stepped up when Ingram was out, and then Ingram came back and he stunk. But now there's no Zion. So Ingram's going to be that #1 guy. Now, I don't think a team with Ingram as the #1 guy is good enough. Not remotely close. Because, again, he'll have the ball in his hands. He'll have usage. He'll score. But it just doesn't do enough across other areas, I don't think. I think without Zion, there's just... Even if the Pelicans do win, I just don't know how they win. I just don't know how they do anything in the next series. So it's the Thunder and the Kings is my likely outcome here. I think that the Kings were always likely, I thought, to beat the Warriors in that play-in game. They did it comfortably, looked great. What about the big Keon Ellis game, by the way? That means we've probably got a 19-minute 0.1 coming up, but he was awesome in that one. Keegan Murray also very strong. But now you take on the Thunder. I just have very little confidence in the Kings being able to do anything against the Thunder. I think the Thunder, I know they're young, but they've been young all year, and they've been good all year, and there hasn't really ever been much of a dip from them at all. I think they handle the Kings or the Pelicans pretty easily. But yeah, if it is going to be the Kings, I'm going to take the Thunder in 5. If it does end up being the Pelicans, and somehow they win that play-in game against the Kings, I think the Thunder beat them in 4 because there's no Zion. If there was Zion, I would say Thunder 5, Thunder 6, maybe in this one against the Pelicans, which is what I thought originally would happen here. With no Zion, they're getting cooked. There's just no way. There's just none. They need to have a real assessment, the Pelicans, as good as they can be. CJ is not it. Valanciunas isn't it. And you need to do something about the Zion-Ingram pairing, I think. But that's not happening now. Zion's out. If they happen to get past the Kings, the Pelicans, I don't think there's any chance for them against the Thunder here. So I'm going to take the Oklahoma City Thunder in 4 if it's against the Pelicans, and 5 for the Thunder if it is against your Sacramento Kings. So on to the Eastern Conference. How do I see these matchups playing out? That's a good question. Lucky we're here to answer it. We'll start from the middle out again, and we'll go with the 4-5 series. Cleveland, who tanked their way into this matchup, up against the Orlando Magic. The Cavs were pretty good. They lost Mobley and Garland, went crazy. They were awesome. Those guys came back. They struggled. And then Mitchell has been bad since the All-Star game. They had the nasal surgery, but it's his knee that's the real problem. Now, thankfully, the last 2 games before they pulled a shifty in that final one, he looked much better. So I'm not sure that he's fully back, but at least we're closer to fully back than where he was before. But I'm not one that believes in karma. I don't at all. I don't believe in the basketball gods or anything like that. Yeah, that you lose a game deliberately, therefore that means you're going to lose this game against the Magic. But I do believe in this, is that this Magic team has defied a lot of expectations. No one can shoot. All right, cool. Who is their go-to guy? Well, I guess it's a second-year guy. Can they defend it all? Their center's 6'8", 6'9". They just turn guys into shooters. They work it out without having good shooters. Their defense is the 2nd or 3rd best in the NBA, and Paolo Banchero leads them. And every time there's a doubt on them, they just keep doing stuff. And they lost a couple of winnable games down the end, but the Bucks tried to beat them in that final game, and they got smashed. The Magic might just be good. And maybe Jamal Mosley actually is a very, very good coach who'll make those adjustments. And again, to take it back to this karma basketball god stuff, which I don't believe in. But the Magic are going to be sitting there going, oh, they want to play us, do they? They want to play us. And I can't imagine, there's probably someone else, and I'm sure there's a lot of other guys, actually, to be honest. But I don't imagine there are, let's say there's not 10 players in the NBA that I'd want to have the mindset of like, oh, they want us, do they? Than Jalen Suggs. I know it doesn't seem like it, but the man is like actually crazy. And he just feels like he's not crazy like he's going to punch you. He's not crazy that's all talk or bravado, but I get the feeling that him having that that idea, which would permeate, like he does permeate that team. And I feel like I'm just fluffing him up a lot. But he's definitely got I will show them. And I think they might. I'm not supremely confident in it because, who knows? Franz Wagner's had some shooting struggles. John Isaac playing big minutes at the moment. If John Isaac's playing 27 minutes a night, they win. If he can do it. I've got the Magic in 7. But of course, if Donovan Mitchell's Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland decides to be Darius Garland, well, that's really going to be hard to beat, isn't it? But Jalen Suggs is awesome. Markel Fultz is a pretty good defender. Franz Wagner can do a lot of different things. How does the Mobley-Allen pairing work? Because it was dreadful last year. The Cavs, if the Cavs don't win this series, JB Bickerstaff should be fired. I've never been a big Bickerstaff guy as a coach. He has been very good the last couple of years, but also some huge errors in the playoffs last year. And if he flames out again here, I think they should move on. I think he's got a very limited ceiling with this team. Magic in 7. Magic in 7 for me here. And I wouldn't be shocked if it went Magic in 6. That's another underdog that I've picked. So I picked the Suns over the Wolves. I picked the Mavs over the Clippers. Well, not underdog, lower seed. And now we're going Magic over Cavs. Don't think that is incredibly controversial, but it's there. Today's episode is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring, well, you want to make sure you've got the right professionals for the role for your small business. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It's a network of over 1 billion professionals. We've all heard of LinkedIn. We know what LinkedIn is, yeah? So instead of putting your job for your company onto a job site, why don't you just put it onto the site, onto the app, LinkedIn, where everyone is, where you can find that professional for your job, quick, smart. 86%, well, not 86% of actually, that's untrue. Small business owners have reported that they find a qualified candidate within 24 hours 86% of the time. The number was right. I was just using it in the wrong context. 86% of the time. It's a frustrating experience having people chuck resumes at you for a job and you go, bro, did you even read this job? I'm looking for someone who's a qualified butcher and you're out here telling me that you once picked oranges. Those two things don't correlate. But people don't read. On LinkedIn, you get access to the right people. It puts your job in front of the right people's noses. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's do the rest of these Eastern Conference playoff projections. I thought long and hard, Giggity, about this one. The Bucks and the Pacers. Giannis is probably not going to be ready for game 1. He might not be there for game 2. If I didn't have a lack of confidence in whatever the hell has been going on with Tyrese Halliburton, in the way that Pascal Siakam has been fine without being great, I would, like if this was Milwaukee-Orlando 6, no problem. They would win the first 3 games and it'd be over, I think. The Giannis thing, the Doc Rivers thing, the Dame not being Dame thing, the Brook Lopez not quite being Brook Lopez thing, the Chris Middleton injury thing. There's a lot to overcome. But I'm also just not certain on the Pacers. The longer Dame, like if Giannis misses 3, I think Indiana wins. If Giannis misses 2, I think Milwaukee wins. And at the moment, I'm ruling Giannis out for the first 2. These injuries are hard to come back from. Muscle strain, calf strains. It's a serious one, obviously. And then you've got the real risk of the Kevin Durant, of the coming back too early from a calf strain that leads to chain reactions through to certain Greek mythological figures named based tendon snapping. We hope not. I do have the Bucks in 7, and I don't feel good about it. I have zero confidence in Milwaukee, and normally I'd be like, it'd be great. Like if they actually lose in the first round, that maybe they'd move on from Doc Rivers and get a real coach in there, someone who's not as frustrating as he is. But they won't do that because they've just hired and fired 3 coaches in a year. And they're not paying Doc Rivers out again to do this. So it's not going to happen. So if they do lose, it doesn't mean that he's going anywhere. The shout out to Monty Williams. So I think the Bucks in 7 is the way I want to look at this. We got a result. My third play-in pick worked. I picked Philadelphia over Miami. We got there in the end. Philadelphia wins the 7-8 play-in game to secure themselves in the play-in spot in the 7 seed to take on the Knicks. Embiid played 38 minutes. Tyrese Maxey played 43 minutes. Outside of D'Anthony Melton, the Sixers are healthy. The Knicks do not have Julius Randle. They won't have Julius Randle. Anunoby's back. Robinson's back. We know this, but they don't have Julius Randle. The Sixers, if Embiid did not get hurt to begin the season, or in early January, whenever it was, if he did not get hurt, they would have been the 2 seed. Fairly comfortable. They were awesome. And he's not quite back to being full Joel Embiid yet, but he's close enough back that I don't think the Knicks can handle that. It's a bad situation to be in, to get yourself and be as good as you have been and get to the 2 seed and have to take on a team that's actually a real 2 seed as well. And I'm not saying the Knicks are not a real 2 seed, but the Sixers are a 2 seed as well. If it wasn't for that injury, and now they're fully healthy. I think the Sixers get them. I've got Philadelphia in 6. Tom Thibodeau has, in the past, had quite a lot of playoff coaching struggles. Nick Nurse has won a title, but Nick Nurse is not always the best coach either. It's going to be the battle of every player playing 45 minutes. So you're not going to have any rotation issues in that sense, I don't think. But I just think that as much as we might hate... I talked about Jalen Brunson on the award show yesterday. And I said that the start of the season, there was definitely people who would have told you that Julius Randle was their best player. So I said, no way anyone thought that. They exist, trust me. No one would say it now. Like, not a single person would say that now. But at the beginning of the season, people would have said that. But it is also inarguable, I think, that Randle is a very clear second best player on this team. And that offensive creation ability that he has, albeit sometimes misguided, is needed. Because while Jalen Brunson has been awesome, he has carried this team, he's put them into the 2 seed. With him having to carry such a high load for months, 40 minutes a night, unbelievably, like, was he 35, 37 usage or something crazy, his efficiency fell away. It did fall away. He had a below average league effective field goal percentage. Like, that's a bit of a concern. And those things aren't changing here. Randall's not walking through that door. So I'm taking the Sixers in 6. So that's the Sixers as an underdog I'm taking. The Magic is a lower seed I'm taking. The Suns is a lower seed I'm taking. The Mavericks is a lower seed that I'm taking. And not quite the Pacers over the Bucks, but, you know, it's going to be a very interesting playoff. So I'm taking Sixers in 6. And lastly, second lastly, it is lastly. What am I talking about? It's the 1 seed. It's the Boston Celtics. I don't know who they're going to play. But I don't think it matters. Because, 2 things. The next playing game is going to be Miami, who lost to Philadelphia, versus either Chicago or Atlanta. I'm just going to do a quick score check on this. The Bulls are 8 points up with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. And I wouldn't say the Hawks are playing particularly well. So it's going to be Miami versus probably Chicago. Miami has playoff Jimmy, who has an MCL injury, who could be sidelined for an indefinite period, according to Shams. They're cooked. There is no hope of any Miami Magic, anything, no chance. Even if Butler played, there was no chance. If Butler does play, he's not playing. He's not going to play in this game, Jimmy Butler. I'm pretty confident in that. If he played, they would beat the Bulls, I'm pretty sure, or they would beat the Hawks without too much hesitation. Now I'm not even certain about that. So I would say at this stage that Chicago's going to beat Atlanta, and I think Chicago might beat Miami. And it doesn't matter because they'll get swept by the Celtics. I think it's as simple as that. Even if Miami was in there, like, I actually created this graphic before I saw that Jimmy Butler MCL news, and I still said Celtics in 4. They're not good, Miami. They're just not that good. So I think that, Boston's going to win that one pretty easily. And then if it is Chicago or Atlanta that beats Miami, well, that also doesn't matter. It's like swatting a fly away when you're Thanos. I don't think it matters. The Hawks are trash. The Hawks don't care about the play-in this much that their 6th man playing 29 minutes a night, Vic Krejci, they just said, we won't bother giving you that contract. All they had to do was just auto-convert the deal. From what I understand, you don't even need the player's permission. Like, yes, you can negotiate a multi-year deal with them to say, well, here's a 3-year deal for worth $15 million, whatever. I'm sure they were going back and forth. But they could also have just said, well, we're just converting you to a standard NBA minimum contract. You're available for the playoffs. But they didn't. So now he's a restricted free agent in the offseason on a 2-way instead of a restricted free agent on a full contract. I honestly cannot explain why they wouldn't do that and have him available. Because Jalen Johnson's not there. Onyeka Okongwu's not there. Trae Young at the moment in that game stinks. He's coming off his own injury. They're cooked. Chicago, they're bad as well. Vooch's not very good. Levine out. Ball out. Dosunmu beat up but playing. But the Bulls might end up being the best of the Bulls-Hawks Heat trio. Just sucks that we've got a Giannis injury, a Zion injury, a Butler injury. Who's the other one that I'm missing that's injured? There's someone else, I'm sure. Kawhi. Like, it sucks that these guys are hurt at this point of the year. So whoever it is, I'm pretty sure it's Celtics in 4. Now, what I will do at this point in the season is give you my NBA Finals prediction, but we will do individual round stuff as those things come to fruition. It's boring. I just think it's Boston, Denver, and I think Denver wins it in 7. That's my Finals prediction, and I'm pretty certain that my Finals prediction in the preseason was Denver and Boston as well. And we're going to go back to that. That's how I think we're going to go, and there you go. So what do you think? Who's your pick to win the NBA Finals, but who's in your pick to win these series? Do you think there's going to be as many upsets as I think? What's the most egregious mistake that you think I've made here? We'll come back and check on it later on to see how I go. Don't forget, hit the thumb up, hit the subscribe. I'll be back next week with more shows. I'm not exactly sure the order of them or what they're going to be, but they'll be there. And the best way for you to see them is to make sure you're subscribed. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.